Okay, so welcome back to the part two. This time we're going to do a simple command handler. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a property on the client object called commands. Now this property itself doesn't exist already on the client object, so we're just attaching it to it. And we're going to say new map. Now in the Idiot's Guide tutorial, they do use an enhanced map, which is it's basically a better map according to them. I'm not going to use it though, but if you want to read about it, just go on their guide. I have a link in the description and just read about it. You can use it if you wish. It does provide other support though, so if it interests you, I would recommend using it. But for simplicity, I'm just going to use a regular map for the regular, vanilla JavaScript map. Okay, so the concept is the same thing. We're going to go ahead and have a folder called commands, and inside this commands folder, we're just going to have, a couple of commands. So I'll just say fun.js and kick command, for example. We're going to read this directory. Just going to do that real quick. Dir name commands, and obviously if this directory doesn't exist, it's going to throw an error, and we need to handle that error by catching it, because read dir returns a promise. Okay, you always want to make sure you're handling your errors accordingly. Okay, so this return the promise, it resolves an array of all the segments or all the files that it was read inside commands. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just simply do the same thing that we did in the previous video for the event handler. We're going to iterate through every single file. We're going to check if the file is an actual .js file, and if it isn't, we're going to return. If it is though, we're going to grab the command name by saying file.substring 0 up to file.index of. So index of it will get it will go up to the first occurrence of .js. Okay. Now I'm going to import the module by saying require path.join __ dir name commands and cmd name. Okay. Awesome. So now we have the actual command name. So if I console log command name, and if I console log command module, you're going to see it's going to log the name of the command, and it's going to log empty curly braces, or curly braces with nothing in there, basically. Because right now there's nothing inside the module itself. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to reference this commands map that we created earlier, and we're going to say client the commands.set. We're going to say cmd name and then cmd module. So what I'm doing here is inside the commands map, I'm setting the key to be the name of the command, okay, because it has to be unique. You can't have two commands with the same name. That just doesn't make any sense, okay? So I'm setting the name of the command to whatever the command name is. I'm setting the key to the command name, and that key is going to map to its corresponding module, and that module is going to be the implementation of the command. Okay, so if that doesn't make sense, don't worry, it'll make sense once we actually implement the command itself. Okay, so that's all you got to know for now. So we are done over here. We have all of our commands mapped inside the commands property over here, so we're good. The next thing we have to do is we have to go inside our message events. That is pretty much the core of all text commands. So what we want to do inside here is we need to do a little bit of checks and some parsing. The first check we want to do is we want to make sure that the user is actually issuing the command with the correct command prefix. So my command prefix is ! So you want to make sure you have it set to that. So I'm going to do let cmd prefix equal process.env cmd _ prefix. Again, I'm using the .env module. So it will load all of my environment variables from the .env file to the process.env property, so I can reference it by saying process.env .cmd _ prefix, just like that. The same way I reference my token. Okay, so if message.content starts with, so if it doesn't start with cmd prefix, we're going to return, and I need to add an exclamation mark here. So if it doesn't start with command prefix, we're going to return. We don't need to send a message, obviously, because this case will always happen if they send a regular message without an exclamation mark in front of it. Now we have to do a couple of parsing. So I'm just going to follow the guide, because they actually do a good job at doing the parsing. So why bother changing it, right? So we're going to say const args. This is going to be all of the arguments, and it's going to be an array. We're going to say message.content. We're going to slice the string. We're going to say cmd prefix.length. So we're getting rid of the command prefix from this entire string. Okay, so if I actually just log this real quick, nothing's gonna happen right now, but I just want to show you what's going to happen. So if I say exclamation mark help, it's going to log help, right? All we've done so far was we've gotten rid of the command prefix. I just want to show you guys this step by step. So if I do help 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's going to log the entire thing. So notice how the command prefix is not there. Let me actually zoom in on this a little bit. Okay, but we're not done yet. What we need to do next is we want to tokenize this. So we're going to go ahead and trim any additional white space, because they probably might do something like, exclamation marks, white space, white space, white space, help. And we want to, trim the white space. And we're going to split. We're going to tokenize the entire string. So when it returns, we'll have an array of tokens. But we're going to split it based off of a regular expression. So we're going to do white space, G, just like that. Okay, so let's say if they, let me show you what this actually does. Okay, so basically, let's say if I issue the command, and if I have, let's say, argument 1 here, but let's say if I do a huge amount of spaces, and then I say do arg2, it'll just parse it regular like this. Okay, so this will capture all the white spaces and ignore all of this. Okay, that's why it's better to use regular expressions. So we have the command name, we have arguments over here. Okay, so we need the command name. So we're going to say const cmd name equals args.shift. Okay, so that's going to pop the first element from the array and return it. We're going to also do 2 lowercase. So if I log args, and if I log command name, and if I do help 45, we're going to get the command name, and we're going to get the arguments without the command name. Okay, which is pretty useful because now we have all of our arguments parsed already, which is good. Okay, so now, let's see. Trying to think actually, because some commands might have different ways of forming arguments. So let's say if you have an add role, if you have like an add role command, if you have to specify the name of the role, you might run into some issues, because I'm thinking about that right now because I'm just following the guide over here. I think the better thing to do actually is to allow the user to parse their arguments themselves. But actually, no. Actually, nah. It should be fine, actually. It should be fine. We're not going to worry too much about it, though. But anyways, okay. So now what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and say const command module equals, we're going to say client.commands, and we're going to get, remember, commands is a map. So we're going to go ahead and find the command based off of whatever key we have. So since we have command name over here, we're going to pass it in over here, because remember, command name is the name of the command. Okay, the command names are the keys which map to its corresponding module. So I'm actually, just for safety, I'm going to do 2 lowercase, because they probably entered it in caps, or they, they entered, random cases. So you just want to handle that case right over there. And let's go ahead and say if cmd module doesn't exist, or if it, is undefined, just return. Else, we're going to do cmd module. We're going to call that top level function .run, and we're going to pass in client message args. Whoops, args, just like this. So now the run function is going to be a top level function inside the fun.js, or all of our commands file. So we're going to say module.exports.run equals client message args, and this is just basically following the same exact signature from here. I'm just going to do a message.channel.send fun command works. Okay, now let's just try that out. Fun. Now notice how if I try to do exclamation mark kick, nothing's going to happen, because the kick command does not, the kick file doesn't have this run function. So we need to paste that in, change that, and now if we try to do kick command works. Okay, so now what I was talking about earlier with this parsing is that, let's say if I tried to, well, actually, let me try this real quick. Let's say, let me try doing a simple one. Let's just say add roll.js. And what I want to do is, let me just actually console log the args real quick. So it's good to know, just in case if this problem does arise with someone. So let's say add role, hello world. Now you can see the problem here is, let's say if I try to add myself to a role called computer science, this should obviously be one argument together, but instead the array has two arguments. So if, let's say if I do add role computer science, yeah, it does arise some problems based off of this. So this wouldn't be good. So this wouldn't really be good for adding roles. So you'd probably have to actually do, I would say actually, I don't know. I would say instead of parsing the arguments here, I would say just let the commands do it itself. I know it kind of seems a little bit dumb, but you never know, because let's say some commands depend on arguments that have spaces, like, that have, two words in it. So I think it's best to actually just let's see, let's get rid of that. Okay, so let's try this again. Add role whoops, science. Oh wait, because we're not splitting it, that's why. But yeah, that's just one thing that I would say to look out for. But again, it shouldn't be too complicated to figure out though, so it's not really a huge deal. But if you guys actually have a solution though, definitely let me know. I'm definitely gonna think about that for a little bit. But personally, for me, I use the commando framework for my commands now, so I don't really have to worry about this. But again, I would recommend just parsing your arguments inside each individual command, which again does seem quite tedious, but you might have to. Unless you think of a better solution, definitely let me know. So hopefully this video made sense. And yeah, there's not much to it. If you guys have any questions, join my Discord server right over here. Ask questions, get help, whatever. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.